I never thought I would have to lay my son to rest at just 6 years old. No one does. There I stood, facing Ethan's modest white casket, his cherished blue blanket nestled within, as he often claimed it brought him comfort. Secure. A crucial element I neglected to provide him at the most critical moment. The heaviness of that understanding bore down on me, far more than the murmurs of those seated behind me in the pews. They were experiencing a profound sense of loss that extended beyond Ethan. They were scrutinizing me, analyzing every detail of my life with Ava. Their gazes pierced through me, a palpable heat on the back of my head. Their conjectures pierced like blades. Where's his wife? I envisioned them wondering, how is it possible that she isn't present? In small towns, whispers abound, and I was aware that my absence would soon be just one of many subjects circulating among the locals. No, now they had Ava's glaring absence to revel in. Yet, the town remained unaware of my actions. Just moments before entering the church, my phone vibrated with a message from an unfamiliar number. I looked at it instinctively, anticipating either expressions of sympathy or yet another practical inquiry regarding the arrangements. What I witnessed instead sent a chill through my veins. The image was so crisp it felt as if it had been captured just seconds earlier. Ava reclined by the pool, her skin radiant beneath the warm Hawaiian sun. A young man, with a sun-kissed complexion and an air of self-satisfaction, had his arm draped around her. A cocktail rested elegantly in her perfectly groomed hand. Underneath the image, the note stated, "I thought you might want to know what your wife is truly up to today. A friend who cares deeply." For a brief instant, the picture failed to register. My mind struggled to connect the woman I had shared my life with to the individual captured in that photograph. Ava wasn't attending a significant business meeting, as she had claimed. She didn't occupy the front row at our son's funeral, grasping my hand. She was savoring margaritas in a tropical haven, entwined with an unfamiliar companion. The sting of betrayal hit hard, yet there was no moment to reflect on it. My mother's hand tightened around my arm as she murmured, "Ryan, you're trembling." I was indeed. The phone vibrated insistently in my grasp until I forced it into my pocket, as if hiding it could somehow make it vanish. It did not. The image lingered in my thoughts, haunting me with each blink of my eyes. Yet, I remained unyielding. Not at this moment. I swallowed hard and nodded at the funeral director. Inexplicably, my legs guided me to the front pew, and I took a seat in the place where Ava ought to have been. I held my head high, shoulders squared, determined not to grant the town the pleasure of witnessing my unraveling. Yet my mind was far from tranquil. They hurried through the last few months, fervently attempting to link together the details I had overlooked previously. Ava's calls in the dead of night, her unexpected business trips that always appeared pressing, her sudden mention of needing distance as Ethan's situation deteriorated was striking. I attributed it to grief, believing we were coping in our own ways. I'd been quite the fool. As the service commenced, I tightened my fists, nails pressing into my palms to maintain my composure. The pastor shared insights on Ethan's zest for life, highlighting his unwavering spirit even in the face of his toughest days battling illness. My chest constricted at the mention of Ethan's cherished hobby, tinting his white roses with food dye. I could nearly envision him once more, his tiny hands marked with shades of blue and purple, his laughter echoing through the St. Mary's Medical Center room. My gaze drifted to the bouquet resting on his casket, a sea of white roses stretching endlessly. Ava despised those roses. She had remarked that they were overly simple. Yet, I remained resolute. They were not intended for her. They were intended for Ethan. She was never meant to be included in this moment. Suddenly, my phone vibrated once more. Yet another message. This time, the message came from Ava. I apologize for not being able to attend. Crucial corporate gathering. I will find a way to atone for this. Will you make amends? How can one atone for missing her son's funeral? Am I supposed to enjoy cocktails while I lay Ethan to rest? Fury surged within me, intense and all-encompassing. It consumed the sorrow, if just for an instant, and left me with a solitary reflection. Unbeknownst to her, a storm was brewing on the horizon. I wouldn't break down as she anticipated. I refused to be the sorrowful husband she could exploit. Ava might have turned her back on us when Ethan needed her the most, but I was determined to ensure her betrayal would not go unaddressed. The commitment became undeniable as I rose to give the eulogy. I gazed at the gathering, taking in the familiar faces of neighbors, colleagues, and family friends, and compelled myself to find the words to speak. Each word was crafted for Ethan. Each tale of his happiness and resilience served as a promise to safeguard his legacy, to make certain that Ava's deeds would not tarnish his remembrance. I maintained my composure. I remained completely composed. I kept those for a time when I would be by myself. Today transcended my suffering and Ava's treachery. Today revolved around Ethan. Yet, beneath the surface, I was aware of one undeniable truth. Ava believed she could deceive me and leave without consequence. She was mistaken, utterly misguided. The funeral reception felt like a stage, with sorrowful gazes and practiced words echoing through my parents' living room, as if we were all part of a somber play. Plates of pristine cookies and casseroles adorned every surface. The atmosphere crackled with murmurs, the sort that sent shivers down my spine. The absence of Ava was palpable, and the quiet spoke volumes beyond what any words could convey. I glided through the room, a faint smile plastered on my face as I acknowledged the neighbors, my nods drifting towards distant relatives without true engagement. The sympathy came across as an affront, not due to a lack of merit, but rather because I wished to avoid their sympathy. I sought their truthfulness. I longed for someone to take my arm and confess they had seen the photo as well, that they were aware of her actions, that they witnessed what she had transformed into. Yet, nobody took action. Ava's parents, Karen and Robert, lingered in the kitchen, their presence as intrusive as their critical stares. They had hardly exchanged a word with me throughout the day, yet I sensed the weight of their silent judgments. To them, I had always been the source of their troubles. I lacked the necessary focus and commitment. Ava was their shining star, and nothing she did could diminish that perception. Karen finally made her way to me as I lingered by the mantel, gazing at a framed photo of Ethan. It was among my favorites, his charming, gap-toothed smile as he proudly displayed the results of one of his science experiments. The petals of a white rose were transformed into a stunning hue of blue. His hands were marked with vibrant hues of food coloring. On that day, he felt an overwhelming sense of pride. I gripped the frame firmly, the glass chilling against my hands. "Ryan," Karen remarked. Her voice carried a sweetness that contrasted sharply with her piercing gaze. "Your strength today has been remarkable. It's unfortunate that Ava couldn't attend, but she's processing her feelings in her own manner. This has been quite a challenge for her, as you are well aware." Challenging for her? I clenched the frame as I pivoted to meet her gaze. She regarded me with a pretense of worry, a facade that did little to conceal the judgment lurking beneath. Her words struck hard, each syllable burrowing deeper into my escalating fury. I replied, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. While I envisioned Santorini as a pleasant escape from the challenges, there was a brief flicker of uncertainty in Karen's expression. She swiftly regained her composure, her lips forming a tight line. "Ryan, sorrow can lead individuals to behave in unexpected ways." Ava required a moment to gather her thoughts and reflect on everything. It would be beneficial to cultivate a greater sense of understanding. Comprehension? My jaw tightened as I struggled to maintain my calm. She was unaware, wasn't she? Perhaps she was aware, yet chose to remain indifferent. I felt an overwhelming urge to yell at her, to thrust the image from my phone into her view, demanding that she recognize the reality before her. However, I did not. Instead, I averted my gaze, placing the photo of Ethan back on the mantel with quivering hands. At that moment, my mother stood beside me, her presence anchoring me like nothing else ever could. "Karen," she said, her voice slicing through the atmosphere with precision. "It seems you've expressed your thoughts quite thoroughly." Karen tensed, yet she chose not to contest it. She withdrew to the kitchen, leaving my mother and me enveloped in a thick silence. Mom said softly, her hand gently resting on my arm, "Don't let her get to you. She's merely attempting to divert attention. She is aware of Ava's actions." That confession struck me with the force of a gut punch. "Do you believe she is aware?" I inquired, my voice scarcely rising above a murmur. "She is her mother," Mom stated plainly. "Certainly, she is aware." Her words validated my deepest fears. This was more than Ava's treachery. The gathering was all about family. Karen and Robert probably understood everything from the start and opted to shield Ava rather than confront her with the truth. The idea ignited a fire within me. As the reception lingered on, I found myself seeking refuge in my father's study, yearning for a brief escape into silence. I settled into his well-worn leather chair, the fatigue of the day enveloping me like an inescapable burden. Fragments of memories swirled in my mind, each tinged with unanswered questions that lingered just out of reach. The business trips, the late-night phone calls, the way Ava had begun to distance herself, not only from me, but also from Ethan. Initially, it was understated, a neglected doctor's appointment now, and then a bedtime story overlooked. But gradually, it became evident that she was not entirely engaged. I had chalked it up to the strain of Ethan's sickness, never imagining there was a darker force at work. I retrieved my phone, the image of Ava and her partner staring back at me from the display. My thumb lingered above the delete button, yet I found myself unable to press it. This wasn't merely proof of her betrayal. It served as a stark reminder of the challenges I faced. Uncertainty loomed over my next steps, yet one truth stood firm. I would not allow her to escape the consequences of her actions. Not after leaving me behind. Not after leaving Ethan behind. Ava believed she could evade the repercussions of her choices, yet she was mistaken. In the soft glow of the study, my frustration crystallized into determination. This transcended mere vengeance. It was a quest for justice. To Ethan, for my own purposes, for all that we had sacrificed due to her self-centeredness. She would come to realize the folly of her betrayal, feeling the weight of her choices as she faced the consequences. The days following the funeral unfolded in a haze of sympathy, home-cooked meals, and restless nights. Individuals drifted in and out, their phrases sounding more like lines from a script than authentic expressions. He has found peace in a new realm. He has found peace at last. Their sincere efforts to console me only deepened my emptiness. Where else could one find such joy than nestled in my embrace, sharing laughter over cartoons, or playfully demanding pancakes for dinner? Grief enveloped me tightly, yet underneath, a tempest of anger simmered, poised to erupt. The image of Ava in Santorini lingered in my thoughts, haunting me each time I shut my eyes. Her absence at Ethan's funeral was not merely a lack of presence. It felt as if she was reveling in her newfound liberation, as if our son's death had granted her an escape to a blissful realm. I occupied my time by sifting through Ethan's room, wishing that the diversion would soften the sharpness of my sorrow. His beloved stuffed penguin perched on his bed, showing signs of wear and a charming lopsidedness from countless embraces over the years. I grasped it, the well-known heft igniting a new surge of tears. He took it with him everywhere, even to the St. Mary's Medical Center. As I set the penguin gently on his pillow, a glimmer of something on Ava's side of the room drew my attention. A disorganized pile of documents rests on her desk, left out in the open without a second thought. Ava was not one to leave anything in disarray. Her existence unfolded through a collection of carefully crafted lists and vibrant, organized schedules. A sense of wonder, or perhaps an innate urge, pulled me nearer. The top sheet froze me in my tracks. It was a policy for life insurance. Ethan's name appeared prominently in bold at the top, while Ava's was noted as the only beneficiary. My heart raced as I turned the pages, each one unveiling deeper secrets than the one before. The policy amounted to $1 million, secured merely 6 months following Ethan's diagnosis. I had never been asked for my input, nor had I ever laid eyes on these documents prior to this moment. What struck me most profoundly, however, was the amendment. In the weeks leading up to Ethan's death, Ava had taken a step to remove me as a beneficiary. Her signature loomed before me, a self-satisfied echo of the choice she made in my absence. My hands trembled as I sifted through the pile, uncovering receipts for loans she had secured against the policy. She had spent the money, but for what purpose? Airfare? Drinks by the water's edge? Her partner's lavish preferences? I settled into the chair, gazing at the chaotic pile of papers. This was more than mere betrayal. It was an act of theft. Ava had taken from our family, from Ethan, to finance her getaway. The revelation struck me with the force of a freight train. Ethan's passing marked more than the conclusion of my son's journey. It was the moment Ava chose to lay our marriage to rest with him. The vibration of my phone on the desk interrupted my train of thought. The number was unlisted, and for a brief moment, I contemplated letting it go unanswered. Yet, an instinct urged me to respond. Greetings? My voice carried a gritty edge, burdened by the heaviness of it all. A woman's voice called out, "I need to talk to you." It felt foreign, tentative, but brimming with a sense of immediacy. It revolves around Ava. I clenched the phone more firmly. Who might this be? Harper is my name. She paused, as if considering her next words carefully. I'm aware of her actions. I have knowledge about Hawaii. I understand that my message may not be well received. My chest constricted. What makes you trustworthy? She conceded that it wasn't advisable. However, I urge you to listen to my perspective. Let's rendezvous at the Riverside Cafe on Main. At this moment, the call dropped, and I found myself gazing at the phone in disbelief. Harper. The name was unfamiliar, yet the urgency in her voice demanded attention. A fragment of my being lingered in uncertainty. What if this was an error? What if she were just an eccentric with an abundance of free time? Yet another part of me, the one that kept revisiting that image of Ava in Hawaii, compelled me to take action. I was in search of answers, and this Harper appeared to hold the key to them. I snatched the papers and tucked them into a folder. If Harper possessed any information, I would be prepared to face her with my own evidence. The frustration I had been holding back since the funeral lingered, just beneath the surface, ready to erupt. As I stepped out of the house, I cast a fleeting look back at Ethan's room. The penguin perched on his bed, a quiet observer of the chaos unfolding around him. I vowed to him, in silence, that I would set things straight. No matter what Harper needed to express, no matter the reality she held, I was prepared to hear it. Or at least, that was my belief. What I failed to grasp at the time was that this meeting would do more than merely validate my doubts. It would lead to a realm of far greater troubles. It was an experience beyond my wildest dreams, even during my most challenging times. The Riverside Cafe on Main was the sort of place Ava once despised. Simple, modest, lacking the excitement she consistently sought in her existence. Upon entering, I was immediately greeted by the pungent aroma of charred coffee beans mingling with the scent of low-quality pastries. One look was all it took to find her. She settled into the corner table, gazing out the window. A woman with deep auburn hair styled into a tidy ponytail, her stance unwavering. She defied my expectations. Harper, without raising her gaze, she continued to stir her coffee in slow, deliberate circles. Her phone lay face down on the table, accompanied by a small notebook. I eased into the chair opposite her, letting my folder fall onto the table with a muted thump. At last, she turned her gaze toward me, her green eyes piercing and evaluative. "I didn't think you'd come," she said, her voice a soft murmur, yet unwavering. "You have 5 minutes to clarify my purpose for being here," I stated. With her arms crossed and a relaxed posture, she raised an eyebrow, seemingly indifferent to my tone. "That seems reasonable. Let's cut to the chase. Your spouse, Ava, has been involved with my former partner for more than a year now." The words landed like a blow, yet I remained unyielding. "I was aware of that," I replied coolly, yet the resentment in my tone gave me away. "Oh, are you aware?" She tilted her head, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Are you aware of the funds and their intentions for utilizing them to embark on their quaint dream life in Maui? I stood still, paralyzed by the moment. Which funds are you referring to? Harper leaned in, her gaze sharpening. The life insurance policy, the $1 million payout that your wife obtained after she had your son's name taken off the documents. She vowed to give half of it to Adam, my former partner, so they could purchase a beachfront property together. My stomach churned. I felt the urge to confront her with accusations, to push my chair away and walk out. Yet I held myself back. Instead, I remained, my fingers gripping the edge of the table. And how do you come by all this knowledge? She smirked, her expression devoid of humor. Adam tends to be quite obvious. He has been boasting about it for weeks. Initially, I found it hard to accept what he was saying. Ava always seemed a bit too refined for someone like him, but then he began to present evidence. Harper extended her hand toward her phone, her fingers moving swiftly as she scrolled before effortlessly pushing it across the table. Messages flooded the display. Correspondence from Ava to Adam. Ava, the payment has been received. It exceeds expectations. We'll be leaving this place by the end of the month. Adam, Maui is calling, darling. Simply ensure he remains unaware of anything amiss. Ava, he's too shattered to find his way. It has been completed. My chest constricted. My breath became shallow with every line I read. The Ava referenced in those messages was a stranger to me. Chilly, performing calculations. Disengaged, Harper went on, saying she initially believed he was overstating things, but then she discovered additional evidence. Transfers between banks, travel plans, and even an image of the home they intend to purchase. She has been channeling the funds into a joint account that bears both their names. I gazed at her, my thoughts swirling in chaos. What prompts you to share this with me? Harper stated with candor that she is manipulating both of us. She assured Adam of a new beginning, yet I've observed her methods closely. As soon as she finds independence, she'll let him go, just as she's letting you go. What about me? I find myself as mere collateral damage. I have nothing remaining to risk. Her words lingered, cutting and acrid. My trust in her was tentative at best, yet the evidence she presented was impossible to overlook. What is it that you seek from me? I inquired, my tone subdued. Harper reclined, folding her arms across her chest. Retribution. Fairness. Label it however you please. Adam won't escape without consequences, and neither will Ava, that's for sure. Are you looking to take them down? I'm here to assist you, but we need to move quickly. I observed her closely, looking for any hint of dishonesty. She locked eyes with me, unwavering. I had my doubts about her intentions. Her words dripped with anger, laced with an unsettling venom. Yet, there was one truth I held with unwavering certainty. Ava had deceived me, taken from me, and betrayed me in ways I'd yet to fully grasp. I'm in, I declared at last, my voice resolute and unwavering. Harper nodded, a gentle warmth flickering across her face. Excellent. This marks merely the start of something greater. With a deliberate motion, she delved into her bag, retrieving a substantial envelope and smoothly gliding it across the table. All the essential information is contained within these pages. Names, dates, bank accounts, everything is intertwined. We simply need to discover the perfect thread to tug at. I grasped the envelope, its weight mirroring the burden in my heart. Just as I was about to walk away, Harper's voice rang out behind me. Ryan, she murmured, her voice gentler now. I halted, casting a look over my shoulder at her. My condolences regarding your son. In my opinion, it's Ava who seems to be the one with issues, not you. Her words hung in the air as I stepped out of the Riverside Cafe and into the chill of the night. Thoughts surged through my mind, swirling with potential actions, the next moves, and the methods I could employ to ensure Ava and Adam face the consequences of their actions. This had evolved beyond mere vengeance. It was a matter of restoring the scant dignity that remained within me. Concerning the safeguarding of Ethan's legacy against those who believed they could gain from his passing. Unbeknownst to them, they were facing an adversary unlike any other. I dedicated the night to examining the envelope Harper had entrusted to me. It unfolded like a labyrinth of text messages, bank statements, and photos, each one striking with the force of a gut punch. Each page validated the apprehensions I had long held. Ava was more than a self-centered woman abandoning her life for her lover. She was a master of manipulation, a cunning tactician, and her treachery cut deeper than I could have ever foreseen. The financial evidence was incriminating. Unfamiliar deposits and transfers into an account bearing Ava's name, all directly connected to Adam. However, what halted me in my tracks was the proof of cooperation. Karen and Robert, her parents, played an active role. Their names appeared in emails and on checks linked to non-existent business ventures. I ought to have recognized it sooner. The way Karen and Robert consistently indulged Ava, as if she were incapable of making mistakes. They consistently pointed fingers at me for the issues in our marriage, cleverly masking their criticism with veiled suggestions that only served to diminish my confidence. But now, I understood they hadn't merely been supporting her. They had been providing her with support. The pivotal moment arrived when I stumbled upon an email conversation between Karen and Ava. Karen, Ryan will remain completely unaware. He's overly fixated on Ethan. Ensure the documents are finalized before he becomes aware. Ava, he will remain oblivious. He's too shattered to feel anything. And once it's complete, it's complete. The documents. Which documents? My heart raced as I sifted through the pages in pursuit of the elusive answers. At that moment, I discovered it. A document for the transfer of ownership of our family residence. The location of my upbringing, where Ethan passed his last moments, was up for sale. Ava had skillfully replicated my signature, creating the illusion that I had consented to the sale. They intended to seize it all. The compensation from the insurance, the dwelling, even the savings we've built together. Karen's sharp, dismissive voice echoed in my mind. It's what is most beneficial for Ava. The frustration I had been suppressing surged forth, yet I found myself without a means to express it. I moved restlessly around the living room, hands balled into fists, focusing on maintaining a calm breath. They believed they could control me, exploiting my sorrow to cloud my judgment. They believed they could take everything I had remaining and leave without a scratch. However, they were mistaken. As dawn broke, the contours of my plan started to emerge. I required additional evidence, greater influence, and I was certain of the perfect starting point. My mother, my steadfast support, had been dropping subtle clues for days. Observations and intuitions she had encountered. She was the one who could help me piece everything together. She stood in the kitchen, cradling a steaming cup of tea in her hands. As I stepped inside, she raised her gaze, her keen eyes instantly narrowing. "What seems to be the issue?" she inquired, placing the cup gently on the table. "They're attempting to sell the house," I stated plainly. "Ava and her family." My signature was forged. Her expression hardened, her lips forming a narrow line. "I knew it," she whispered. "Did you know?" I inquired, inclining my body slightly closer. She confessed. I had my suspicions. Karen has been probing for months, inquiring about the property. She even attempted to have your father sign something while he was in a state of confusion, but I stepped in to stop it. That struck me with the force of a punch to the heart. My father, his memory fading, became just another piece in their scheme. They exhibited an utter lack of shame, pushing boundaries without hesitation. She mentioned it was merely a precaution. My mother pressed on, her voice quaking with fury. Yet, I found it hard to place my trust in her. I retained the documents. They are in the study. Her silence spoke volumes. I rushed into the study, sifting through the drawers until I uncovered the documents. There it lay, a legal document permitting the sale of the house, adorned with my father's signature hastily inscribed at the bottom. An imitation. My mother stood behind me, saying they thought he wouldn't remember. They assumed I was oblivious. However, I have been observing them, Ryan. Karen has consistently exhibited manipulative behavior. However, this is quite remarkable. I settled into my chair, feeling the burden of it all pressing down on me. They're not solely motivated by financial gain, I remarked softly. They seek it all. The dwelling, a savings. All that Ethan and I cherished. My mother rested her hand on my shoulder, her grip steady and reassuring. So, ensure they don't come out on top. Stand your ground. Her words ignited a passion within me. This had transcended my own concerns. The focus was on the legacy of Ethan, concerning the preservation of the remnants of him that I still held dear. Ava and her family believed they could outwit me, yet they overlooked one crucial detail: my determination. They were interested in playing games. All right. However, I refused to remain passive and allow them to seize it all. Those who believed I was shattered were about to discover just how mistaken they truly were. I dedicated the remainder of the day to collecting every fragment of evidence I could uncover. Records from the bank, correspondence via email, and papers from Harper's envelope. A larger narrative began to take shape. For months, Ava and her parents had meticulously crafted their plans, perhaps even for an extended period. They approached with caution, meticulously weighing their options. However, they had erred. I intended to take full advantage of each and every opportunity that came my way. As darkness enveloped the world outside, I found myself in Ethan's room, cradling his beloved stuffed penguin. "I will make this right," I murmured into the shadows. "I assure you, Ethan, I refuse to allow them to seize what belongs to us." The tempest within me had subsided, supplanted by an entity that is more frigid, more perilous. Ava and her family believed they could bring me down, but they overlooked one vital detail. I was experiencing something deeper than mere grief. I was getting ready. Ava believed she was invincible. Her carefully crafted deceptions, the counterfeit papers, funds were channeled into hidden accounts. She was confident that she had explored every perspective. Yet, she never anticipated that I would uncover the flaws. That's the essence of being overlooked. It provides you with an edge. After witnessing the lengths she and her parents were prepared to reach, it became clear to me that I needed to take the initiative. The dwelling held a secret. It was more than mere real estate. It was a fragment of my family's essence. With each nail and board, my father crafted it himself, pouring his heart into every detail. This place was my childhood home, the setting for Ethan's first steps, and the backdrop for countless nights spent cradling him during his toughest moments of illness. It held a profound significance. And what about Ava? She aimed to sell it to fund her getaway. That morning, I reached out to Andrew, an old friend who had moved from our high school debate team to a keen legal career. He had a debt to repay, and the moment had arrived to collect. "Ryan," Andrew stated after listening to me, his voice grave, "this is chaotic. If your signature was forged, we can contest the sale. However, we require more than just your assurance. Proof is essential. Observers, written materials, any evidence that reveals a trend of dishonesty." "I have an abundance," I responded, recalling the pile of proof Harper had provided and the counterfeit papers my mother had managed to intercept. "However, I must understand how we can prevent this from escalating any further." Andrew let out a heavy sigh on the other end of the line. "We must act swiftly. If they complete the sale before we take action, reversing it will be a daunting challenge. Allow me to leverage my connections and investigate the legal documents. In the interim, collect all that you can. Ensure every detail is accounted for." I expressed my gratitude and ended the call, my thoughts already in a whirlwind. Andrew was indeed correct. Time was slipping away. Ava and her parents were moving swiftly, and I had to keep pace. I began by arranging all the materials Harper had provided, affixing them to the corkboard in my father's study, much like an investigator assembling clues for a case. Financial transactions, electronic correspondence, images. It all created a bleak portrayal. Yet I craved something deeper. My mother was my initial supporter. She observed Karen's manipulations closely for months and was more than willing to assist. While your father may not have a vivid recollection of events, I certainly do. Karen and Robert made several attempts to coerce him into signing those papers. I diligently recorded each instance they arrived here without prior notice. She presented me with a petite notebook, its pages brimming with dates and intricate narratives of their visits. It constituted additional proof. yet another element to incorporate into the argument I was developing. Subsequently, I contacted Harper. Despite my reluctance to depend on her, her understanding of Ava's intentions was something I couldn't overlook. She mentioned over the phone that they are meeting with the realtor tomorrow to finalize the sale. To halt their progress, your presence is essential. What leads you to this conclusion? I inquired, a hint of doubt lacing my tone. Harper responded, saying that Ava doesn't see me as a threat. She keeps me informed, assuming I'll simply comply. Yet, she remains unaware that I have already anticipated her next move. Her bitterness was unmistakable, and although I couldn't fully trust her, I recognized she had a point about one thing. Ava did not fully appreciate our capabilities. As everything began to align, I dedicated the remainder of the day to my preparations. I meticulously duplicated every document, captured every detail, and ensured I had reliable backups in place. I was ensuring that every detail was accounted for. As darkness descended, the study transformed into a chaotic arena of scattered papers and intricate plans. My mother entered the room, cradling a cup of tea, and placed it gently beside me. She remarked, "There's a certain spark in your gaze. Which look are you referring to?" I inquired, lifting my gaze from the corkboard. She said with a faint smile, "It's the same look your father used to get when someone tried to cheat him out of a deal. We must not allow them to strip this away from us, Ryan. Stand firm and protect Ethan's home." Her words struck me with the force of thunderclap. This transcended my personal experience or the mere structure of the house. It revolved around safeguarding the things dear to Ethan, the remnants of his past. The anger I had experienced from Ava's betrayal had transformed into something more intense, more directed. I assure you, they won't. I gave my word. The following morning, I donned attire reminiscent of a soldier preparing for battle. Suit impeccably pressed, tie perfectly knotted, folder clutched in hand. Andrew had already submitted a motion to stop the sale, yet I understood that I had to be present and face them directly. As I crossed the threshold, my mother placed a tiny object in my hand, a tattered, plush penguin. "Take it with you," she murmured gently. For fortune, I tucked it into my briefcase, the comforting weight anchoring me. It was more than merely a toy. It served as a poignant echo of Ethan's laughter, his unwavering spirit, and his deep affection for the life that Ava had so readily forsaken. Upon my arrival at Sunshine Realty, I noticed Ava's car stationed out front. Within the confines of the room, she and Karen occupied their seats at the table, their gleaming smiles concealing the intricate web of deceit they had woven over the past months. "Ryan," Ava exclaimed, pretending to be taken aback as I walked in. "What brings you here?" I placed the folder on the table and opened it, exposing the proof of their deceit. "I halted you, my voice icy." Her expression was utterly unforgettable. However, the conclusion was still far from reach. Far from it. Ava's complexion drained the instant I unveiled the folder. She found herself caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events. None of them were. Karen settled next to her, her typical air of confidence wavering as her gaze flitted to the papers laid out on the table. The realtor, ensnared in a conflict he never anticipated, appeared profoundly uneasy. "What is this all about?" Ava inquired, her tone tinged with a pretense of bewilderment, yet the slight tremor in her voice revealed her anxiety. "Text, you tell me," I replied, leaning forward, "because it appears to be a mountain of evidence indicating that you and your mother have been creating false documents, diverting funds, and attempting to sell this house without my knowledge." Karen's lips pressed together tightly. "Ryan, let's keep things calm and straightforward. This is a straightforward real estate issue." "An uncomplicated real estate issue?" I retorted, my tone escalating. "Welcome to my abode, Karen, the residence of my family. You attempted to seize it by falsifying my signature. Did you really believe I wouldn't see it? Or did you believe I was too shattered to stand my ground?" Ava shifted uneasily, her poised demeanor beginning to falter. "Ryan, I implore you. We've been experiencing quite a bit of pressure. We were merely attempting to manage the situation during your time of loss." I struck my hand against the table, catching everyone off guard. Do not even think about using Ethan's death as a reason for this. As I laid my son to rest, you were scheming to take away all that we created together. And for what purpose? To escape with Adam and indulge in your whimsical dream life in Hawaii? Her eyes grew large with surprise. I struck a chord. You simply don't grasp it. I completely grasped the situation. I severed ties with her. I realized that you've been deceiving me for quite some time now. I see that you've been channeling funds into undisclosed accounts. I see that you're prepared to obliterate the remnants of what I possess, all for a fleeting excitement. Karen attempted to interrupt, yet I was still speaking. And you, I remarked, directing my gaze towards her, have played a part in all of this. Influencing my father, creating signatures, stepping in for Ava during her disloyalty to our family. Did you honestly believe I wouldn't uncover the truth? For the first time, Karen appeared unsettled. Ryan, your demands are quite excessive. Our sole intention was to safeguard Ava's interests. Your emotional state has been precarious since Ethan's passing. Unsteady? I chuckled with a hint of bitterness. You mean mourning, grieving for the son I cherished above all else while Ava focused on her getaway. She's the one who is truly unstable. And you, for supporting her. The realtor cleared his throat, a palpable sense of regret hanging in the air as he contemplated his choice to come to work that day. I believe it might be best for me to step out. No, I replied with a sharp tone, turning to face him. Remain here. Prepare to uncover the true extent of the illegality surrounding this so-called real estate issue. I took out my phone and pressed play on the recording Harper had shared with me. A dialogue unfolds between Ava and Adam as they deliberate over their intentions for the insurance funds. Ava, the funds have been deposited into the account. After the house is sold, we'll have sufficient funds for the down payment on the property in Maui. Adam, what are your thoughts on Ryan? Ava, he's far too preoccupied to pay attention. He won't anticipate it all. All was quiet in the room. Ava's face drained of color, and Karen's calm demeanor crumbled. You capture my voice? Ava murmured, her voice almost a secret. No, I said, reclining in my chair. However, there was someone who understood the essence of who you are, and she was more than willing to assist me in revealing the truth about you. Ava's gaze flickered toward the door, hinting at a sudden urge to escape. You can't prove anything, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Indeed, I am capable of that. I pushed additional documents across the table, bank statements, emails, and proof of forged signatures. Each and every transaction, each fabricated document, each falsehood, everything you need is right here. Andrew has already submitted a motion to stop the sale. This house is here to stay. The stillness lingered, thick and oppressive. Ava glanced at Karen, yet this time, her mother remained silent, devoid of any reassuring words. You believed I would simply give in and allow you to triumph. I replied, my tone calm, yet unwavering. Yet you misjudged my capabilities. You have consistently done so. This concludes here. Karen parted her lips to voice her thoughts, yet the door burst open, interrupting her before a word could escape. Andrew entered, clutching a pile of legal documents. Apologies for my tardiness, he remarked, his demeanor relaxed. I recently visited the courthouse to file an injunction aimed at freezing all property transactions related to this house. He placed the papers on the table and faced the realtor. It could be wise to reconsider your involvement in this deal. Things are about to become quite chaotic. The realtor acted without a moment's pause. I believe that's my signal to exit, he murmured, clutching his briefcase and nearly dashing out the door. Once he had departed, I redirected my attention to Ava and Karen. There are two paths before you, I stated. Feel free to turn your back on this place, abandon your intentions, and let go of any plans you may have had. Or you can challenge me, and I'll ensure you both find yourselves in a courtroom. On the front page of every newspaper in town, Ava gazed at me, her facade of composure utterly shattered. In that moment, I caught a glimpse of fear reflected in her eyes. Karen, on the other hand, was not prepared to give in. You're just pretending, she retorted. I faced her gaze directly. Challenge me. Ava seized Karen's arm. Mom, please, enough. Karen paused, sensing the weight of his words. Yet, the expression in Ava's eyes swayed her decision. In silence, they rose and exited, their previously assured steps now faltering and hesitant. With the door shutting softly behind them, I exhaled a breath I hadn't known I was holding. Andrew gave me a hearty pat on the back. "You did well," he remarked. However, I held off on any celebrations for the time being. This was merely one skirmish. The battle raged on. Not at this moment. The repercussions started the instant Ava and Karen stepped out of Sunshine Realty. They abandoned the arrogance that had weighed on them for ages. Their meticulously crafted illusion crumbled. Yet, for me, that moment marked merely the start of something greater. The clash had halted the sale of the property. However, the extent of the harm they sought to cause was much greater than I had understood. Andrew promptly initiated motions to freeze all shared assets and accounts. "It's not merely the house they seek, Ryan," he remarked as we settled into his office later that day. "They've been strategizing for quite some time, aiming to deplete all your possessions. Should we fail to act swiftly, there remains a chance they might evade our grasp." I acknowledged the gravity of his words settling within me. "What should we do next?" "We reveal them," he stated plainly. "Every single one. Ava, Karen, Robert. All those who contributed to this. We confronted them with allegations of fraud, property theft, and any other claims we could substantiate. The challenge loomed ahead, yet I felt prepared to face it. This had evolved beyond seeking justice for myself. The focus was on safeguarding Ethan's legacy and making sure that Ava and her family confronted the repercussions of their choices. The initial phase involved collecting additional evidence. Andrew and I meticulously examined every document, email, and transaction at our disposal, constructing an argument that allowed for no uncertainty. Harper emerged as an indispensable ally, revealing even more incriminating details about Ava's hidden accounts and her connection with Adam. Harper remarked during one of our meetings that you have no idea how much she boasted to him. She believed he was her accomplice in mischief. However, Adam exhibited a lack of caution. He created a path wherever he traveled. The evidence revealed a dark narrative of Ava's treachery. She had not merely drained funds from the life insurance policy. She had cleverly diverted funds from our shared savings, fabricating expenses to conceal her actions. Karen and Robert had been in cahoots throughout the entire process, leveraging their power to obscure her deeds and twist legal paperwork to their advantage. Under Andrew's guidance, we initiated a civil lawsuit against Ava and her parents. The legal journey was arduous, with every stage serving as a stark reminder of all that they had attempted to strip away from me. However, as the weeks unfolded, the tide started to shift. Ava's lover, Adam, emerged as the initial fissure in their facade. Under increasing pressure, he shifted his stance towards her, offering testimony that confirmed all that Harper and I had discovered. His remarks validated Ava's plans to abscond with the insurance money and embark on a fresh chapter in Hawaii. Karen and Robert took their time to make a decision. They attempted to craft a story, portraying themselves as the wrong parties who were merely trying to safeguard Ava in a challenging moment. However, the proof stacked against them was insurmountable. Emails, bank records, and forged documents all indicated their active participation in the scheme. The ultimate revelation struck when Andrew unearthed an even more profound layer of deceit. Ava and Karen tried to influence my father into transferring not only the house, but also other family possessions. Andrew uncovered evidence that he had been targeted during his moments of confusion brought on by dementia, with the intention of exploiting his condition for their own benefit. "That's more than just fraud," Andrew remarked as he presented the documents to me. "That constitutes mistreatment of the elderly. The courts will not overlook that." As the charges were brought forth, the gravity of their offenses ultimately came to bear on them. Ava, Karen, and Robert encountered a series of legal repercussions, ranging from fraud to property theft to conspiracy. The scrutiny was merciless. Their formerly esteemed standing in our quaint community has been diminished to mere whispers and shame. Ava, naturally, attempted to portray herself as the victim. She asserted during a deposition that she was unaware of her actions. I was a mourning. I have erred. Yet, her tears failed to deceive anyone. Neither the attorneys nor the magistrate, and definitely not myself. She had made her decisions, and now she was facing the consequences. Ultimately, the decision of the courts was in my favor. The house was once more under my ownership, along with the leftover assets that Ava had failed to extract. The life insurance payout, initially intended to help her start anew, was instead frozen and redirected to its original purpose, providing support for pediatric cancer patients in Ethan's name. It transcended mere legal triumph. It stood as a testament to moral integrity. Throughout my journey, I have battled fiercely to safeguard what is most precious to me, my son's memory and the enduring legacy he created. Yet, despite the victory in court, the wounds of their treachery lingered on. Ava's actions had shattered a part of me, a part that couldn't be mended with ease. She revealed the true extent of her selfishness, and although I emerged victorious over her plots, it was not without sacrifice. Karen and Robert withdrew from the spotlight, their reputation shattered. After years of cultivating their power, they watched it all disintegrate due to their insatiable greed. I was unable to restore Ethan to us, yet I could guarantee that Ava and her family would never inflict pain on anyone else as they had done to me. The aftermath was total. The dwelling was secure. The funds were channeled toward a meaningful purpose, and those who had sought to undermine me were now confronting the repercussions of their deeds. The battle was far from finished, at least not for me. Though the legal struggle was over, the path to recovery was only starting. The house was silent now, a silence that nestled deep within my heart. For months, it had been engulfed in the turmoil of legal battles, paperwork, and the heavy burden of treachery. Yet now, with the legal struggle concluded and Ava and her family confronting the repercussions of their choices, an air of tranquility enveloped the scene. A poignant tranquility settled in, a recognition that the tempest was over, though the scars lingered on. Ethan's room remained exactly as he had left it. The beloved stuffed penguin rested on the bed. Its warren stands as a tribute to the depth of his affection for it. The vibrant sketches he had affixed to the walls remained, and for a fleeting instant, I could nearly hear his joyous laughter echoing around me. I perched on the edge of his bed, cradling the penguin, allowing the memories to envelop me. The ruling by the court guaranteed that the home would remain within the family. Yet the focus had shifted beyond the house. It revolved around Ethan's enduring impact, safeguarding all that he cherished and ensuring that his memory transcended mere sorrow. I decided to accept the life insurance payout for that reason. Every penny Ava had attempted to take and establish the Ethan Thompson Foundation. The foundation aims to finance research on pediatric cancer and provide assistance to families facing the challenges we once experienced. It seemed fitting, as if it were exactly what Ethan would have desired. He had always been brimming with empathy, even in moments when he himself was suffering. The initial grant was awarded to the pediatric cancer ward where he had devoted countless hours. I went to the St. Mary's Medical Center to connect with the families it would assist, and for the first time in what seemed like ages, I experienced a flicker of hope. Ethan's name would endure, not only within my heart, but also in the lives of those he would keep inspiring. Yet progressing ahead did not equate to erasing the past. On a brisk autumn morning, I ventured to the cemetery. The crisp air enveloped me, each step producing a satisfying crunch as I made my way to Ethan's final resting place. The headstone was understated, precisely how he would have preferred it, featuring a modest engraving of a penguin in the corner. I knelt, gently clearing away some stray leaves, and set the stuffed penguin at the foot of the stone. Text: "I knew you'd be proud, my friend," I whispered. The home stands secure, its foundation solid and operational, while your recollections are aiding countless individuals. I made a commitment to you to resolve this, and I followed through. The wind whispered through the trees, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed as if Ethan was present, his essence intricately intertwined with the surroundings. Your grandma outwitted everyone. I remarked, a subtle grin playing on my lips. She was exceptional, just as you always mentioned. As I stood there, my father drew near, his movements deliberate yet unwavering. Though his memory had faded over time, today his gaze held a newfound clarity. He is at peace now, he remarked softly, his tone unwavering. I expressed my hope, feeling a constriction in my throat. He caressed the penguin, his fingers lingering on its plush surface. Ethan shared something with me once, shortly before he left us. He said, he reassured me, saying not to fret about Dad. He's more resilient than most realize. I took a deep breath, my vision clouded by tears. He mentioned that. My father nodded, a subtle smile gracing his lips. He was indeed correct, you see. We lingered in quietude, the heaviness of sorrow and affection intertwining in the crisp atmosphere. A monarch butterfly settled on the headstone, its fragile wings glimmering in the sunlight like a piece of stained glass. My father extended his hand, but I softly grasped it, holding him back. Allow it to unfold, I murmured gently. The butterfly ascended, twirling gracefully, liberated and lighthearted. I observed it until it faded away, realizing for the first time that genuine strength lay not in retribution or triumph. It was in the act of release. I wrapped my arm around my father's shoulders, gently steering him back toward the car. Fluffy pancakes? I inquired, a grin beginning to warm my tone. His expression brightened, a fleeting glimpse of understanding breaking through. Fluffy stacks of deliciousness. Ethan had a deep affection for pancakes. Indeed, he did, I replied, my heart brimming with a mix of sweet nostalgia. As we strolled away, I cast a backward glance at the penguin vigilantly stationed by the headstone. It represented more than just Ethan. It served as a poignant reminder of all that we had battled for. The butterfly illuminated my path ahead. It wasn't about erasing the hurt, but about cherishing the affection that accompanied it. As I drove home with my father, I felt the burdens of the past start to ease. Ethan had departed, yet his essence lingered, steering me toward a journey where affection and strength could harmonize with sorrow. It wasn't a victory, it was a matter of enduring. For the first time in ages, it truly felt sufficient.